Hey everybody, who's your Jedi here with another review for you. This time we're talking episode 7 of season 3 of Arrow called Draw Back Your Bow. And overall, I kind of thought this was just an okay episode of Arrow. I wasn't too impressed by Cupid as a villain, but there were definitely a lot of nice nods and shoutouts to the comics and some good character stuff. So let's just kind of get into the nods to the comics first because I don't want to forget any of those. The one that I really enjoyed was that Cupid was holding that criminal hostage at a place called Sherwood Florist. This is the name of the flower shop that Black Canary used to run back when she and Green Arrow were living together and fighting crime in Seattle. So, I mean, again, a very nice little nod there. And hold on one sec. There's one more. I'm blanking on it. Oh yeah. Okay. They also kind of mentioned Suicide Squad again, and that was cool. They do sort of say that something that Cupid would be replacing the last female that they had in there. That would be, of course, Harley Quinn. Even though we didn't get to see her very much. I think it's just kind of to avoid things being too complicated. That's the reason why they aren't going to do Harley on the show. Also, of course, the producers over on Gotham have said, like, well, we'd like to do Harley, but probably not this season. So I have a feeling they might be saving Harley for season 2, assuming Gotham gets a pickup, which I think it will. Now, of course, what happened to Harley? Well, Harley's a wily one, so it actually wouldn't surprise me if she somehow figured out a way to escape from the Suicide Squad. I mean, there is a way to deal with those implants. If you've seen the movie, for example, the animated movie Batman: Assault on Arkham, yeah, Harley is is in that, and she does find a way out of there. Which, incidentally, I do have a review of that movie up on my channel. It's quite a lot of fun. The other one was we see in the Hong Kong flashback when Oliver and Tatsu are talking down at the docks, and Oliver questions her and says, like, "Hey, I wasn't able to find the word gaijin in my Chinese dictionary. What does it mean?" And Tatsu goes, "Oh, well, you didn't find it in there because it's Japanese." And she goes on, means like foreigner or outsider. Well, first of all, what you have to notice there is that the Outsiders were the name of the team that Katana in the comics spent a lot of time on. She's also been a member, most recently, of the Birds of Prey, and she's really badass there. But anyway, that kind of, like, the word gaijin kind of brings up some interesting things. I love how Oliver points out to her, like, and Mikasa goes, like, a gaijin, you, a foreigner, and Oliver goes right back to her and it's like, you're a Japanese person in Hong Kong, living in Hong Kong. That makes you a gaijin too. And she just sort of like, oh yeah. And that is totally true. Remember, folks, I used to live in Japan. I lived there for about 3 years, and I'm rusty, but my Japanese is still fairly decent. And yeah, that is very much an example of the Japanese mindset right there. I remember when I was over there, I heard a story from this other foreign guy who spoke Japanese pretty well. He was back in the States waiting for a plane at LAX. And this group of Japanese people got off the plane and were like looking around the airport, and we're going and said to each other in Japanese over and over again, like, "Wow, look at all the gaijin." And this guy felt kind of annoyed, so he snapped at him in Japanese and like, "Hey, in this country, you're the gaijin." And the Japanese people were like, "Oh yeah." And well, just to kind of tell you a little bit about what real life is like as a foreigner in Japan, the question of whether or not gaijin is an insulting word is one that is kind of just an endless debate in the expat community. My personal stake on it, incidentally, is that it really depends on the context. A lot of times, gaijin is exactly what it is presented here on the show to be, just kind of the word Japanese people use most often for foreigner. Although, in fact, gaikokujin is the more polite term. On the other hand, if a Japanese person walks up to you and yells gaijin right in your face, that's not exactly them being friendly. And no, that didn't happen to me because I'm 185 centimeters tall, which puts me well above the average Japanese person, and I'm a guy. Now, when somebody does that to a short El Salvadoran woman, which is exactly what happened to one of my friends while I was over there, it means something a little bit different. But at the end of the day, it just sort of proves that there are people who are enormous jerks in Japan, just like everywhere else. But anyway, moving on. Let's just kind of wrap things up in the Hong Kong flashback. Here we get to see that Tatsu is not just she's no Yan. She's just not some traditional Japanese housewife. She is in fact an insane badass, and she proves that right here. Now I've got a pretty good idea of just who it is that Tatsu and her husband are running from in Japan. Hint, hint. It's probably the Yakuza. But because in Japan it's always the Yakuza. But anyway, we'll see. We'll wait for confirmation on that. But that was definitely sort of a nice moment for Oliver and Tatsu to sort of see each other on a little bit more equal footing. And I do think it sort of helped humanize Oliver a little bit in Tatsu's eyes. I mean, he was willing to go out there and put himself on the line to help Masao. And that's really something that I think is going to earn some real respect from Tatsu. Anyway, jumping back into the story proper. I was actually watching this thing. It was I think it was the Arrow After Show, and it was from last week, and they were talking about last week's episode, and they actually had Stephen Amell on the show as a guest. And he was talking about one of the biggest problems for the writers on Arrow is the whole villain of the week thing. It kind of drives them crazy because you don't want something like that to just be a complete throwaway thing, because otherwise the audience sort of feels cheated. It's like the villain was just a complete throwaway; they didn't matter. So what they try to do on the show is use these sort of villain of the week to sort of drive home things that are going on with the characters. Like last week's episode, Isaac or Isaiah or whatever his name was, that was just sort of really there to drive home what was going on with Roy. And Cupid, of course, is really to kind of drive home what's going on with the whole Elicity situation. I mean, just look at the thing between Cupid and that hacker guy that she had working for her. I mean, it really is just sort of a dark reflection of what's going on with Oliver and Felicity. You've got the arrow-wielding vigilante with some serious emotional issues, and the hacker person who has the hots for them. And of course, that ends in murder. Well, here it's just in more emotional angst for Oliver and Felicity. But again, I like they just sort of presented Cupid as, again, a dark reflection of that whole situation. And it's also kind of cool that the lady playing Cupid was a young Mary Winchester on Supernatural. You gotta love that CW intermingling. Man, how awesome would it be if they, after a Supernatural wraps up, if they were able to get Jensen Ackles or Jared Padalecki to guest star on Arrow? Wouldn't that just be insane? But anyway, kind of going on. Not beyond that, there really wasn't to me a huge amount to say about Cupid. Although, how the heck stupid were Oliver and Diggle that they looked at those arrows and go, it's a spade on the end of it. Like, it's a damn little red heart. Are you guys idiots? But again, that's sort of plot necessitated idiocy. And I hate that in shows. I really do expect better from Arrow. But, nothing's perfect, right? But anyway, kind of going on. Again, this was really an episode that was about sort of looking at the whole thing between Oliver and Felicity. And I like how Diggle went down to the office to sort of talk with Felicity and say, like, hey, you and Oliver need to have a sit down and have a real conversation about your feelings. Because, Felicity, the way things are now, is being a serious distraction to Oliver. And, one, I really like that Felicity stood up to Diggle in there and basically told him, like, dude, this is not your business, and Oliver made his choice and I'm moving on. Good on her for that. But Diggle does make a fair point that the way things are between them right now is not a good situation, and these two, one way or the other, really do need to have a more honest sit down and really, really put a final stamp one way or the other on where they stand with each other. Because, they're both in a place where they can't really properly move on. And, I kind of think that's what it has to say for Oliver. Now, as for Felicity and Ray, man, some people I really think were just like absolutely calling Ray a scumbag and all this on online, and I think that's ridiculous. It's just again shippers seeing anybody who's a threat to their preferred OTP as complete and utter demons from hell, which is ridiculous. First of all, in no way, shape, or form was Ray trying to buy Felicity. Yes, he gave her that really sweet dress, but again, she's one of his like heads of his departments or something like that. I mean, yes, it's obvious that there's an attraction there, but Ray did go out of his way to say that the whole thing was completely platonic. Excuse me. And I genuinely do believe that was his intention. I mean, he even apologized to Felicity after he ended up kissing her and said that it wasn't meant to be like that. So I think Ray is a guy who has a mission. He's got that whole I'm going to rebuild Starling City, and then there's whatever's going on with the Atom suit. Hell yes, the Atom suit. And he's just sort of like, nah, man. Romantic stuff, totally a distraction. I got bigger fish to fry. But Felicity does have that way of working her special magic on billionaires with costume fetishes. So then again, I guess Felicity's not exactly one to cast stones in terms of fetishes, as she does say, "Oh God, I have a type," which is apparently hunky dudes who can do salmon ladders really well. Yeah, I guess I can't really blame Felicity on that one. That would probably go over quite well with a lot of women. But anyway, getting back to Ray, like the whole thing that he was like trying to buy her is just ridiculous. I mean, he even explicitly says, "Yes, this necklace is worth $10 million, but I do need it back." He even says like that he put down a $10,000 deposit, which, if I'm doing my math correctly, is like 1%. I mean, man, whoever he got that from must have been a real bro to like, oh, you want to borrow this $10 million necklace? Well, you can do that. I only need a 1% deposit. Of course, if that's not the correct math, and I am really bad at math, I'm going to be rather embarrassed. But anyway, so I do think that Ray did not go in there with any bad intentions, and the whole kiss thing, that was just two people who are attracted to each other having a moment. And again, he did apologize and got out of there. So again, I really don't see any bad intentions in what Ray was doing. I do have to say I really like that scene at the end where Oliver and Roy do go over to Diggle's house to have dinner with him and Lila. Again, just because it was nice to see Lila again. Speaking of which, have you realized we have not heard a word about the whole Hive situation all season? They're really putting that on the back burner, aren't they? But yeah, again, just sort of showing that while Oliver's romantic life is kind of a wreck, he is building some genuinely strong family bonds. Like, he's apparently moved in with Thea. He and Roy have got a very solid, mentor apprentice, big brother little brother going on. Dig stepping in there, being the biggest brother of them all. Okay, that might not have come out exactly the way I intended it, but you get what I'm saying. Like Oliver and like he and well, okay, you get what I'm saying. Let me see here. Nothing else to really particularly say about Cupid. I'm not the only one who was kind of hoping that there would be some sort of eventual clash between Cupid and Thea. That would actually be pretty badass. I mean, Thea is probably pretty capable with a bow as well. So if they were to bring back Cupid later on, sort of maybe Amanda Waller six the Suicide Squad on Malcolm Merlin or something, yeah, that would be pretty awesome. Douchebag DJ guy, yeah, screw this dude, don't like him at all. Unfortunately, from what I've been hearing, he's basically going to be Thea's new romantic interest. Again, F this guy. Seriously. And, nope, can't think of anything else that I have to say about this episode. Pretty solid episode, but not the most exciting of the season. So anyway, guys, as always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And, of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Who's Your Jedi. Until next time, take care and have a good one.